Today we're going to be learning how to subtract fractions through manipulatives. So once again, this one here stands as a whole. The red one here is half of the whole because two pieces make up that whole. This blue is a third because three pieces make up a whole. This brown one here is a fourth because four pieces make up a whole. And the green one is a sixth because six pieces make up a whole. And the purple one is a 12th because we need 12 of those pieces to make up a whole. So I'm going to start with our very first question here. So we have 3/4 minus 2/3. So let's grab 3/4, 1, 2, and 3. So here's 3/4, and we want to subtract 2/3. Okay, so we want to take away a total of 2/3 from this 3/4. Well, I look at this, that's hard to kind of do because these thirds are different sizes. But even if I cover it, I look at this, I go 2/3 or 3/4 subtract 2/3, I'm going to get something that looks like this. So what's left of this is actually, we're covering up 2/3 of 3/4 because that's what we're taking away. What we're left is a 12. Now, let's see how this actually works. So we know this is equal to 1/12. Oops. So how does that work? Well, kind of like, remember, when we did addition, we wanted kind of the same proportions or the same fractions, right? We want the same size pieces. So same thing with this here. It's hard to take this away from these brown pieces. So we're going to make them the same. So if we remember, we have for each fourth, that's the same as having 3/12 is a fourth. Okay? So essentially, this is like saying 9/12 because we have 3/12 and we have 3 of them. Okay? So that's times by 3 times by 3. Okay, now we want to subtract 2/3, so we're looking at 2/3 here. Okay, now if you remember, 4 of these pieces make up a third. 1, 2, 3, 4 make up a third. So we want to take away 4 pieces. So I'm going to take away 4 here. Okay, and then for this other one, this is the same as 4/12. So altogether we have subtract 8/12. So we take out another 4. And essentially I am left with 1/12. Okay? Let's take a look at our next one. We're going to go 1/2 subtract 1/3. So we have 1/2 and we want to take away one of these. Okay, so if I was to cover this up like this, we took that section away, we know by looking at it that is equal to 1/6. Now let's try and see how we could do this so we don't use shapes and mentally. So we want to take away this. Now it's hard to take these away from each other because they are not the same size shapes. So we want to make them the same size shapes. So I'm going to use, in this case, 1/6. We have 3/6 here to make up this, and I have 2/6 here to make up that. Okay, so this is the same as 3/6 subtract 2/6. Now once again we looked at a common denominator, times by 3 times by 3 times by 2 times by 2, where 6 is the lowest common denominator, and then we multiply the numerator by the same thing we multiply the denominator by. So we want to take away 2/6, so let's take away 2/6. So we are left with 1/6. So if we look at this, when we're just like when adding, we do not pay attention to the bottoms once we have common denominators. We just take away our tops or add our numerators. Okay? So let's take a look at one more here. Let's look at 1/3 subtract 1/4. So we have 1/3 and we're going to subtract 1/4. Okay? So I look at this, and that puts it there. That's going to look like 1/12. But let's try and look at this again from the mathematical so we can figure out how we do this without using shapes and why we do that. So it's hard to take away this from this, so we're going to want these shapes here. So we have 1/3 is 4 of these, as we figured out earlier. So we have 4/12. And we have a quarter. A quarter is 3 of these, right? So we're going to take away 3 of those. So that's taking away 3/12, which is equal to 1/12. Because we do not subtract our denominators, we only subtract our numerators. And once again, we found the lowest common denominator, times by 4, times by 3. And what we multiply the denominator by, we must multiply the numerator as well by, so we keep the same proportion with our fractions. Okay, so let's try one like this now. All right, so we have 1/2 subtract 2/3. So we're going to look at 1/2, and we want to subtract 2/3. Okay, so when we have 1/2 and 2/3, well, both of these could be made into sixths. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now the problem here is we have 3 sixths here, and we have 4 sixths here, because this is, each one of these are 2 sixths. Now, we have more than we could take away. So if we remember that integer lesson with the dance, that could help us with this. So in other words, they want to take away 4 from 3. So how many short are they going to be? Well, that's going to be equal to -1/3. So it's kind of like the boys and girls at the dance. So we're taking away 3, and then there's yet one more. So maybe this one here is flipped or something, or if we could color it, it's a different color. And we're left with a negative because we're lacking one more third we needed to take away. And that's how we get the answer for that one. Now our very last question is going to be a mixed one. So we have 1/4, or 1 1/4, minus 2/3. So we want to take away 2/3. Okay, so this is going to look like this. Nope. There we go. So if I look at the 2/3, it looks like this. So we have a third and a quarter left over. But that doesn't really make sense. When we say we have a third and a quarter left over, we need the same size shapes again. So let's make these into 12s. So 1 and 1/4, well 1, there's 12 12s, right? So we have 12 12s right here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's 12 12s. And we have a quarter, which is another 3 12s. Okay, so that gives me altogether 3 and 12 is 15 12s. And we want to minus 2/3. Well, 2/3, each third is 4 12s. So I go like this, 1, 2, 3, 4. So each one is 4. But we're taking away, so let's just take away 4. So we take away 4 here. And we have to take away another 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's taking away 8 12s, because that's 2 4 12s. So that's going to end up getting us, we have altogether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I took away one too many. 7, because 15 minus 8 is 7. So that gives me 7 12ths as an answer. So once again, what we have to do is we have to convert these into common denominators and mixed fractions is, or improper fractions is probably better, and then we just subtract the tops. Once we have our denominators the same, all we do is we focus on our numerators and we just apply the operation to those numerators.